Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazzi here, and this is going to be my 8.2 Destruction Warlock DPS guide for both Mythic Plus and Raid encounters. In it, we will discuss Azerite traits, talents, essences, rotations, and a few other things along the way. If you're interested in any weak auras or add-ons you see here, I'll place a link to my Twitch where I stream 5 to 6 days a week, as well as my Discord in the description where you can find them all. I will also place a link to recent sims in the description as well if you would like to use them as a reference point. Now let's get right into it. Now on August 13th, Destruction is receiving a 5% damage buff across the board. This is obviously going to be impactful in both Mythic Plus and Raiding, but it's still unclear as to how much it will affect each. The main issue when comparing Destruction to both Affliction and Demonology is that it's terribly immobile. It can cast Conflagrate on the move, and that's it outside of an instant cast Incinerate from a Chaotic Inferno proc. If the spec lacks some mobility, however, it certainly makes up for in 2-target cleave and strong CD-based burst windows. As far as Azerite traits go, there are a handful in which you have to choose from. Crashing Chaos is a strong trait as it both reduces the CD of your Summon Infernal cooldown, as well as buffs the damage your Chaos bolts do recently after summoning your Infernal. It's important to note that the CD reduction does not stack with 2 or 3 crashing traits, but the bonus damage effect however does. The same can be said for both the Chaotic Inferno and Chaos Shards traits. The bonus damage effect does stack, but the proc chance however does not. Traits like these are certainly valuable at 1 stack, but then lose value at 2 and 3. Other traits such as Loyal to the End, Bursting Flare, and other stat-based procs are also solid choices as they do stack. A typical single target destruction build would look something like 1 Crashing Chaos, 1 Chaos Shards, 1 Chaotic Inferno, and then most likely a mix of multiple Bursting Flare, Loyal to the End, or other stat-based traits if possible. Certain builds of Destruction prefer 1 Crashing Chaos trait for the CD reduction, while others don't really care for it as a whole, which we'll get into in a little bit here. When it comes to Havoc cleave based builds, the Rolling Havoc Azerite trait is extremely powerful as long as you can make good use of your Havoc windows on fights where there are adds throughout or 2 permanent targets like Queen's Court. The stacking intellect buff it grants you is both powerful in said Havoc window as well as outside of it when the window is closed, single target wise. Rolling Havoc has only further solidified Destro as the king of 2-target cleave and BFA. Mythic Plus also offers a great deal of opportunities for some large Rolling Havoc windows on trash and sometimes bosses, making it a strong choice there. Flashpoint's a very interesting trait as well in itself, as it's one that gains a lot of value if there are targets or adds above 80% health for a long portion of the fight. Fights like Conclave of the Chosen in BOD basically guaranteed 80% plus uptime over the fight, and while Eternal Palace might not have as many opportunities for Flashpoint abuse, it's still a strong choice on fights like Queen's Court or Gozoa and others. It's also a very strong choice for Mythic Plus, as you're able to proc it and refresh it a few times at the start of basically every trash pack. Taking a look at essences for Destruction in both Mythic Plus and Raiding, there are a few builds running around that are a blast to play. The first build that I enjoy the most revolves around Memory of Lucid Dreams as a major essence and Vision of Perfection as the minor, mainly for the CD reduction that it brings to our Infernal. Running 1 Crashing Chaos trait with said build brings your Summon Infernal CD to around 2 minutes and 15 seconds or so, depending on neck level, which lines up with every Dark Soul and Lucid Dreams usage you will have. This pretty much means you have the ability to mostly spam Chaos Bolts while under the shard generation effects of your Infernal later into your Supremacy windows. This is a strong build for Raiding as a whole and gains even more value in fights where you can get an extra Infernal/CD cycle in compared to other builds where your Infernal is still a 3-minute CD. I have also seen this build run a few times in Mythic Plus and run it once or twice myself. While 2 minutes is still a decent bit of time when taking CDs into account for Mythic Plus, in higher fortified keys you should have CDs for pretty much every other pack while also bringing very strong single target burst damage for bosses. Another build that's been popping up lately is running Condensed Life Force Rank 3, with mostly Crucible of Flame as your minor essence. This build does not make use of the VOP minor / Crashing Chaos Infernal CD reduction like the previous one, however. It more so opts for powerful CD usage every 3 minutes by syncing your Infernal, Dark Soul, and Condensed Life Force usage every 3 minutes instead of 2. Crucible of Flame is still a very strong option when it comes to a minor choice, and brings with it more consistency in a sense when compared to something like Lucid Dreams as a minor. The damage multiplier that CLF Rank 3 brings with it as well is also very nice during a Supremacy window or for Chaos Bolt damage in general, and seeing as how they both last 30 seconds, makes for an exceptional amount of burst damage for raiding and boss encounters. I'm not a huge fan of this build in Mythic Plus, however, as it brings with it most of the same issues that Destruction has now outside of the CD reduction build, and that's mainly 3-minute CDs. Outside of these two builds, which you mostly see for raiding, there are a few different builds that I've seen or experimented with myself in Mythic Plus. The common denominator, like I mentioned before, between them all is that each one has run a Crashing Chaos trait and Vision of Perfection as either a major or minor essence. There's a huge difference between a 2-minute and 3-minute Infernal, especially in Mythic Plus, even more so if your group pulls around your CDs or things line up in general. I recently experimented with focusing Iris Major and VOP Minor with one Crashing trait and was pretty pleased overall. This is the build that I've been running for Mythic Plus this season as Destruction. In the 15 row, the only real option that we have currently is Flashover for a few reasons. Sadly, while Soulfire is a pretty exciting talent to play with, it's pretty undertuned at the moment and not worth it in any situation. Eradication does increase your Chaos Bolt's damage by 10%, but it's only to the target that you hit with the last cast Chaos Bolt. Flashover provides a significant DPS increase with its buff to Conflag's damage, in addition to also granting another charge of Backdraft. This is especially strong inside Havoc windows. The 30 row brings Reverse Entropy as the talent of choice over both Shadowburn and Internal Combustion. While Combustion is an interesting talent, it's not very exciting to play with and is also a single target based talent like Eradication. Shadowburn does see a bit of play on explosive weeks and such, but your best choice here is easily Reverse Entropy. A mini Bloodlust every so often is especially strong and can lead to some pretty insane Havoc windows or openers. The 45 row is a utility row, and I typically either run Burning Rush or Dark Pact here in Mythic Plus. The additional cooldown Pact brings is nice in higher keys or tyrannical settings. In the 60 row, our only real choice here is Cataclysm. Inferno is an absolute dumpster fire of a talent at the moment, and sadly Fire and Brimstone is also pretty undertuned at the moment. Cataclysm is both a single target DPS gain as well as a very strong CD on trash packs that also applies Immolate to every mob hit by it. The 75 row is another personal preference utility row, but I normally swap between Dark Fury or Mortal Coil here. In the 90 row, Grimoire Supremacy provides an insane amount of additional burst damage with your 3-minute Infernal cooldown, and is also even stronger if you run the VOP build, which reduces your Infernal CD to roughly 2 minutes instead. Roaring Blaze is an option of sorts, as it does provide a bit of damage smoothing over the run, but Grimoire I feel is still the best choice in this row. Finally, in the 100 row, we have the option of either Dark Soul Instability or Channel Demon Fire, and the winner here I feel overall is DSI. It's a very powerful cooldown on a 2-minute CD that further boosts your Infernal / Grimoire / Crashing Chaos damage if used with one another. Channel Demon Fire is an option at times, such as teaming Fortified Weeks or other niche scenarios, but I feel that Dark Soul Instability gets the nod here overall. Destruction is the actual king of 2-target cleave when inside a Havoc window, and to be honest, there's not a whole lot to the actual Havoc windows themselves. You want to set up for your Havoc by pooling up to about 4 shards, then applying Havoc to one target. Swap to the other and cast Conflag into double Chaos Bolt. At this point, you should have your second Conflag coming off CD, which you can then cast and then typically go right into another Chaos Bolt. Havoc does generate twice the amount of actual resources than you do single target, so double Conflag, triple Chaos Bolt windows are pretty easy to come by with the proper setup. As far as cooldown usage goes for trash in Mythic Plus, you typically want to open on Cataclysm into Infernal, into your CDs, and then a Havoc window. You should be able to squeeze in 3 Chaos Bolts as well as a few other casts if under the effects of Backdraft and Flashpoint. If the pack will actually live for a decent while, you can push your CDs outside of your Infernal back a bit later, but remember that Havoc's on a 30-second cooldown, so you're only getting one window regardless during your Infernal, and also leaving Havoc off cooldown for a bit as well. It is worth noting that Rain of Fire is a DPS increase at 3 or more targets outside of a Havoc window, and a DPS increase at 5 or more targets regardless of Havoc. Rain of Fire does also stack, but if there's a priority mob in the pack, it will most likely be worth focusing down with Chaos Bolt instead of padding, in a sense, with Rain of Fire. Taking a look at single target / raid talents here, you will notice that not much really changes from the actual Mythic Plus build we just spoke about. Flashover is still the talent you want in the 15 row, as the bonus damage it brings in addition to an extra backdraft proc is very strong. In the 30 row, Reverse Entropy is still the talent of choice as well, as a mini Bloodlust is really strong regardless of the spot you're in. The 45 row is the utility row as mentioned, and the vast majority of the time I have Burning Rush as my talent of choice here in raids. The additional movement speed it provides is a huge plus in almost every scenario. In the 60 row, our only option that we actually have is Cataclysm. It's both a single target and multi-target DPS gain, which should effectively be cast on cooldown. Both Inferno as well as Fire and Brimstone are not even worth considering, regardless of the fight structure currently. The vast majority of the time, I have and recommend Demonic Circle in the 75 row, as it provides a great deal of utility when it comes to certain mechanics such as the knockup on Mythic Mechatorque, as well as a way to traverse an area quickly if placed well. You can pretty much always find some use on every fight for your Demonic Circle, barring it being totally patchwork. In the 90 row, Grimoire Supremacy is going to be the talent that you want here. It is a bit unfortunate that it's tied directly to our Infernal, which is on a 3-minute cooldown, but it brings with it an insane amount of burst damage, especially when paired with Crashing Chaos traits. Destruction in its current form is mostly a cooldown based spec, bringing exceptional burst damage every 3 minutes, and then a mediocre amount outside of like Flashpoint and Rolling Havoc fights in between cooldowns. Finally, we have the 100 row, and the choice you should make here is Dark Soul Instability. DSI when synced with our Infernal CD, regardless of whatever essence build you're running, brings a great deal of additional damage with it, and is our strongest choice here, hands down. Taking a look at the Lucid Major VOP Minor build with Crashing Chaos, the opener you're going to want to follow is Precast Incinerate into Cataclysm and then Summon Infernal. Cast Conflag after that and dump a Chaos Bolt or two, depending on shards, and then fill with Incinerate or Conflag until about 20 seconds remain on your Infernal. At this point, pop Lucid Dreams, then Dark Soul, and begin to dump as many Chaos Bolts as possible. Due to the increased shard gen that Lucid brings with it, Infernal shard gen, and other potential refunds, you're able to spam Chaos Bolt mostly for the remainder of your Infernal window. If you need to fill with a spell, prioritize Conflag over Incinerate as it brings with it backdraft stacks and solid shard gen. With this timing, your Dark Soul and Lucid should end right near the end of your Inferno/Supremacy window for max value. Outside of that, you mainly just cast Conflag on CD and fill with Incinerate/Chaos Bolt when possible. Be sure to cast your Cataclysm on CD as well, even if Immolate is not within Pandemic range, as it's still a single target DPS game. Also be sure to never let your Immolate fall in general. Looking at the Condensed Life Force Rank 3 build, however, things are a little different opener-wise. You still start on a Precast Incinerate into Cataclysm and then Summon Infernal, but you then want to pop your Condensed Life Force Major Essence. After that, cast Conflag and fill with a Chaos Bolt or two depending on shards, and then Incinerate Conflag until 20 seconds remain on your Infernal. At this point, pop your Dark Soul CD, and then begin to dump as many Chaos Bolts as possible while filling with Conflag and Incinerate. Similar to how the previous opener works, your Dark Soul and Condensed Life Force Rank 3 will expire right when your Infernal does as well, gaining max value from said abilities. CLF lasts the full 30 seconds just like our Infernal, but takes a few casts to fully ramp up to its 10% haste bonus. By the time you pop your Dark Soul, however, you'll be receiving the full haste bonus it brings with it. Outside of your Infernal window once again, be sure to cast Cataclysm on CD, don't let your Immolate drop, and fill with Conflag/Incinerate outside of casting Chaos Bolts when available. As far as stat weights go in actual gear sims, the best way to tell where your own individual character is sitting is a raidbots.com top gear sim. It will take all of your current gear into account as well as other options if selected and give you the highest actual set you have available. Stat weights fluctuate a bit between different characters and often shift a great deal when trying to compensate for one in a stat weight sim, so top gear is the actual way to go. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this guide gave you all a better understanding of just how Destruction looks currently in 8.2 in the Eternal Palace and heading into next week's 5% damage buffs. If you're interested in any weak auras or add-ons you see here, there's a link to my Twitch and Discord in the description where you can find them all. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below and I'll be sure to get back to you. If you guys want to see more WoW content and help support the channel, smash those like, share, and subscribe buttons as your support really helps. Thanks guys, and I'll see y'all on stream. Peace.